at 1, ahead of the curve, solving quadratic inequalities. All right, warm up. Determine the solution of each quadratic equation. Let's take a look. Okay, so to solve this, we're going to add 100 to both sides. So you get x squared equals negative 64 plus 100 is 36. We're going to take the square root of both sides. Remember, square root's plus or minus. The square root cancels the squared. You get x equals, the square root of 36 is plus or minus 6. All right, go and excuse me, finish up number 1. All right, number 2. Now, number 2, we need to move everything to the left side. So we're going to subtract 15 from both sides. So then that's x squared plus 3x. 5 minus 15 is minus 10. Equals, that cancels, so equals 0. Okay, so now we're going to factor this. 2 parentheses equals 0. Now we know x and x makes x squared. Now we need to figure out what numbers multiply to give you negative 10 combined to be 3. Since the middle number is positive, the bigger number will be positive. So let's try negative 1 times 10 equals negative 10. Negative 1 plus 10 is 9. That doesn't work. Okay. All right. So then we try negative 2 times 5, which is negative 10. Negative 2 plus 5 equals 3. So we have our negative 10 or 3, so our factors are x minus 2, x plus 5. So we said x minus 2 equal to 0, x plus 5 equal to 0. Add 2 to both sides, x equals 2. Subtract 5 from both sides, x equals negative 5. All right, go ahead and finish that one up. All right, let's take a look at number 3. So we need to subtract 7 from both sides to get 4x squared plus 12x minus 7 equals 0. Now, this might be factorable, but I think jumping right to the quadratic formula would be a good idea. So this is a, b, this is c. So the quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac.
Lanaya Williams, please meet your ride in the front office. Lanaya Williams, please meet your ride in the front office. Thank you.
Okay. Now, we're going to plug these numbers in here. So that's x equals negative b, which is 12, plus or minus the square root of 12 squared minus 4 times 4 times negative 7 divided by 2 times 4. So x equals negative 12 plus or minus the square root. Let's go ahead and get that. So I'm going to do scientific calculator. So we're going to do 12 squared minus 4 times 4 times negative 7, which is 256, divided by 2 times 4 is 8. All right, at this point, we can plug this into our calculator. So I'm going to do divide first, and then negative 12 plus the square root of 256 divided by 8. And then divide negative 12 minus square root of 256 divided by 8. And so x equals 0.5. and x equals negative 3.5. Okay, now let's take a look at the last one. Okay, now we're going to subtract 5 from both sides. So then that's x squared plus 4x minus 8 equals 0. Now, the factor, we need to find out what numbers multiply give you negative 8 and combine to be 4. Since the last number is negative, the middle number is positive, the bigger number should be positive. So negative 1 times 8 is negative 8. Negative 1 plus 8 is 7. That doesn't work. Negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. Negative 2 plus 4 equals 2. There's no other combinations that would get you close to 4, so this isn't factorable. Okay, so since it's not factorable, we're going to go again to the quadratic formula, so A, B, C. So x equals negative 4 plus or minus 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 8 divided by 2 times 1. So x equals negative 4 plus or minus the square root. Let's go ahead and plug what's underneath the square root in. So 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 8 is 48. Divided by 2. And then we can plug that into our calculator and get those numbers. So divide negative 4 plus square root of 48 divided by 2 and negative 4 minus square root of 48 divided by 2. So let's round to one decimal place. So 1.5 and negative 5.5. All right, go and finish that up. All right, let's take a look at the next page. All right, getting started. It has its ups and its downs. A firework is shot straight up into the air with an initial velocity of 500 feet per second. From 5 feet off the ground, the graph of the function that represents this situation is shown. H of t equals negative 16t squared plus 500t plus 5. Okay. Now, it says use the graph to approximate when the firework will be at given heights off the ground. So let's go ahead and graph this. So I'm going to go to Desmos, graphing calculator. Negative 16. We have to use x instead of t. 16x squared plus 500x plus 5. Now, we don't see our graph, so we need to look here, and we need to adjust our window. We need to go from 0 to 50 and 0 to 5,000. Okay? So to do that, I'm going to go here, and we're going to change our axis to 0 to 50. And our y-axis, we're going to go from 0 to 5,000. Now we have our graph. Now, we need to graph y equals 0 to find those values first. So we're going to do y equals 0. And that's right here. So our values are 0 and 31.2. Actually, 31.3. Okay. Now we're going to graph 1,000. So I'm going to change this to 1,000. And then my values are 2.1 and 29.1. Okay. Next, we're going to do 2,500. So, oh, too many zeros. All right. So that's 6.2 and 25.0. All right, the next one is 3,900. All right, and so then that's 14.8 and 16.5. All right, so go ahead and write those values down. All right, next. Describe any patterns you noticed for the number of times a firework reaches a given height. A firework will reach the height at two different times as it travels upward and then downward. It will reach the maximum height at one time only. Let's take a look at the next. Draw a horizontal line on the graph to represent when the firework is 2,000 feet off the ground. Okay, that's going to be y equals 2,000. Right? When is the firework height higher than 2,000 feet? So we change this value to 2,000. And then we have 4.7 and 26.6. When is the firework below 2,000 feet? Draw a box around the portion. So when it's above, it's right here. And preemptively put that color. I'm going to fix that. Okay. Now, when it's below, it's right here and right here. So it's 0 to 4.7, or it's from 2.66 to, and I believe that number is off just slightly, but let's double check. It hits the ground right here at 31.3. Okay. Write a quadratic inequality that represents the times when the firework is below 2,000 feet. And there's your inequality. All right, go ahead and finish that up. All right, let's take a look at the next page. All right. Activity 1.1, solving quadratic inequalities. Just look at the inequalities. You have studied the solution to the quadratic inequality set of values that satisfies the inequality. So to solve the inequality, first you set the left side equal to 0. So we're ignoring the inequality and we just need to find the values. So we're going to factor two parentheses equals 0, x and x. We need to figure out what two numbers multiply to give you a positive 3 and combine to be negative 4. The only way this would be possible if you multiply two negative numbers. So negative 1 times negative 3 is a positive 3. Negative 1 minus 3 is negative 4. So we have our 3, negative 4. So our factors are x minus 1, x minus 3. Set x minus 1 equal to 0, x minus 3 equal to 0. So x equals 1, x equals 3. Now, we need to test values between the 1 and 3. Okay, so to the left of 1, to the middle of 1 and 3, and to the right. Okay, so I'm going to pick values to the left of 1. I'm going to use 0. Okay, so that's in this region. I'm going to use 2, which is in this region. And then I'm going to use 4, which is in this region. Okay. Now, this graph, though, is wrong. There's a line underneath. So this should be an open circle here and here. So there should be an open circle at 1 and at 3. Okay, because there's no line underneath. Okay. So let me fix that here and here. Okay, so now we're going to plug 0 into this inequality. So that's 0 squared minus 4 times 0 plus 3 less than 0. Okay, so let's use our Desmos calculator. And I think we can just use the graphing to get numbers, so let's do that. So 0 squared minus 4 times 0 plus 3. Now that's 3. Three is not less than 0, so this is false. Okay, so there will be no shading in this region. Okay, so now let's test 2. So that's 2 squared minus 4 times 2 plus 3 less than 0. So all I have to do is here is go and change the 0 to a 2 and this 0 to a 2, and that's negative 1. So negative 1 less than 0, which is true, so that's a check. So I can shade in between here because that's true. Okay, and let's test 4. So then that's 4 squared minus 4 times 4 plus 3 less than 0. So again, same inequality. I'm just going to change the 4 or 2 to a 4, and you get 3. Three is not less than 0, so there will be no shading. So the only shading occurs between 0 or 1 and 3, not including 1 and 3. Okay, so the solution is right here. Technically, that's mathematically correct. X is an element, but honestly, I'm okay with just the parentheses 1, 3. Okay, now the inequality notation is equivalent right here. Okay, all right, so go ahead and finish that up. All right, let's take a look at the next page. All right, mark off number 1. Let's take a look at number 2. Graph y equals x squared minus 4x plus 3 on a coordinate plane. So let's go ahead and do that in Desmos. So x squared minus 4x plus 3. Now I need to press the home key to get back to my standard window. And we have some good points here, so let's go ahead and graph those. So 0, 3, 1, 0, 2, negative 1, 3, 0. Okay. Now, I need a point here, but so let's think. If I went up 1, 2, 3 to the left one, from here I go up 1, 2, 3 to the right one. All right, and then there's my parabola. Okay. Now, then describe how the graph supports the solution set for the associated quadratic inequality. It wants to know when it's less than 0. Okay. So the graph is less than 0 right here, which supports we're between 1 and 3. Okay? Which can also be written as parentheses 1 comma 3. All right, let's take a look at the next page. All right, mark off this portion, but what I want to do is we're going to determine the roots of this inequality. Now to do that, first things first, we set it equal to the right side. And once we do that, we need to subtract 7 from both sides. So then you get 2x squared minus 14x plus 20 equal to 0. I noticed that I can divide every one of the numbers by 2, so let's do that. That divides becomes 1. You get x squared minus 7x plus 10 equals 0. Now, we want to see about factoring, so 2 parentheses equals 0. Now, we need to figure out what numbers multiply to give you a positive 10, combined to be negative 7. The only way to do that is with two negative numbers. So negative 1 times negative 10 is positive 10. Negative 1 minus 10 is negative 11. That doesn't work. So then negative 2 times negative 5 equals positive 10. Negative 2 minus 5 equals negative 7. We have our 10, negative 7, so our factors are x minus 2, x minus 5. So x minus 2 equal to 0, x minus 5 equal to 0. So x equals 2, x equals 5. Now at this point we need a number line. We always want to put 0 in the middle, and then we have 2 and 5. Now this has a line underneath, so closed circle. So we have a closed circle at 2 and at 5. Now we need to test values. We need to test a point to the left, middle, and right. So 0 is good. We can test 0. Let's use 3 is in the middle, and then let's use 6. So we're going to test 0, 3, and 6. So let's test when x equals 0. So I plugged 0 into the original inequality. So 2 times 0 squared minus 14 times 0 plus 27 greater than or equal to 7. Okay, so let's use Desmos. So 2 parentheses 0 squared minus 14 times 0 plus 27 is 27. Okay. Now, that is true, so we can shade all of that region right there. Okay. Now, let's test x equals 3. So that's 2 times 3 squared minus 14 times 3 plus 27 greater than or equal to 7. So here, all I have to do is change the zeros to 3, and then I get 3. Now, 3 is not greater than or equal to 7, so there'll be no shading in the middle, okay? All right, and then the last value. Okay, let's test x equals 6. So that's 2 times 6 squared minus 14 times 6 plus 27 greater than or equal to 7. And so that's 15. Okay, so that checks, so we can shade to the right in that region. Okay. So our solution would be from negative infinity to 2 bracket. It's a bracket because it's closed circle. Or that means or bracket 5 to positive infinity. Now, as an inequality notation, that would be x less than or equal to 2, or x is greater than or equal to 5. All right, go ahead and finish that up. All right, let's take a look at the next page. All right, activity 1.2, modeling quadratic inequalities. A water balloon is launched from a machine upward from a height of 10 feet with an initial velocity of 46 feet per second. Identify the variables and write a quadratic function to represent this situation. Let's let time equals t represent time in seconds and h equals height of the balloon in feet. And we're going to use the equation h of t equals negative 16t squared plus v naught t plus h naught. The v naught is your velocity, so that's 46, and your h naught is your initial height, which is 10. So your equation is negative 16 t squared plus 46t plus 10. All right, let's take a look at the next part. Okay. Use technology to sketch the graph of the function, okay, which is this right here. So let's go and use Desmos. So negative 16x squared plus 46x plus 10. Now we need to adjust the window, so we're going to go over here and we're going to change the axis from 0 to 5 and 0 to 50. All right, there's our graph. Okay. Now draw a horizontal line on the graph to represent the balloon. Let's get our graph first. So let me get some points. This is a good point. This is a point we'll just have to approximate. And this is a point that we can use. So 0, 10. Let's approximate that's 1.4, comma 43.1, and 3.1, comma 0. All right, so we're going to use these 3 points. So 0, 10 is easy. 1.4 is about right here. 43 is about right here. And then 3.1 is about right here. Okay. So there's our parabola. Excuse me. Okay. Now, it wants to know when the balloon is 30 feet off the ground. So we're going to graph our y equals 30. Okay. And we have our points. So we're going to graph y equals 30. So our points here and here. So it is above at 0.5, less than t, less than 2.3. Okay. So that's this portion right here. Okay. And we're not going to circle. We're going to color the portion. Okay. Write and solve an inequality to determine when the balloon is above 30 feet. Use the graph to explain. So our inequality is 0.5 less than t less than 2.3. interval notation, that would be 0 to 0.5 to 2.3. All right, go ahead and finish that up. All right, now it says determine when the graph is below 30 feet. So that's this portion right here and here. At or below, so that means equal. So that's 0 less than or equal to t less than or equal to 0.5. So 0, 0.5. Or from 2.3 to, when does it hit the ground? 3.1. So 2.3 to 3.1. All right, go ahead and finish that up. And I guess I should color code this too. All right, let's take a look at the next page. All right, mark off this page. We're not going to do anything on this page. Also mark off this page. We're not going to do anything on this page. All right. Now, the teacher is going to, before I do that, we're going to mark off this part, and the teacher is going to work 2A, 2B, 2D. Student will work 2C, 2E, 2F. Okay. Now, there's not enough space to do this on this, so I've added an extra page. You might get a scratch piece of paper to do that. But I'm going to do it on this page, okay? Now, first thing we do is set this equal to 0. So we have 2y squared plus 2y minus 12 equal to 0. Now, we're going to divide everything by 2. So that becomes y squared plus 1y minus 6 equal to 0. Now, we're going to factor, which is y and y. Now, we need to figure out what numbers multiply to give you negative 6 and combine to be 1. The answer to that is negative 3 and plus 2. Okay, set those equal to 0. So y minus 3 equal to 0. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Plus 3 minus 2. The middle number is positive, so the bigger number needs to be positive, okay? So y minus 2 equal to 0. So y equals negative 3 and y equals 2. Okay. Now, no line underneath open circle. So we're going to draw a line. Open circle at negative 3. Open circle at 2. Now, we need a test value. So I'm going to pick a number to the left, negative 4. Middle 0 is fine. And then 3. So I'm going to test negative 4 first. Y equals negative 4. Okay. So I'm going to plug that in. So that's 2 parentheses negative 4 squared plus 2 times negative 4 minus 12 greater than 0. Okay, so let's plug that into Desmos. So 2 parentheses negative 4 squared plus 2 times negative 4 minus 12 is 12. Is greater than 0, so that checks out. That means we can shade here. Okay, now let's test y equals 0. Okay, so that's 2 times 0 squared plus 2 times 0 minus 12 greater than 0. Now, that's 0, we're left with negative 12 greater than 0. That is false, so we don't shade there, okay? Now, let's test the last value. Let's test y equals 3. So that's 2 times 3 squared plus 2 times 3 minus 12 greater than 0. So here, I'm just going to change the negative 4's to 3. And we get 12. 12 is greater than 0, so that checks. So we can shade here. Okay, so we have negative infinity to negative 3, or 2 to infinity. And another way to write that is x is less than negative 3, or x is greater than 2. All right, let's finish that up. All right, let's take a look at 2b. So we can actually factor out an x from each term, which will use x plus 6, and we're, again, just setting it equal to 0. So x equals 0, and then x plus 6 equals 0, so x equals negative 6. So we have x equals 0, x equals negative 6. Now, there's a line underneath, so it's going to be a solid circle, okay? So I come over here, we have negative 6, closed circle, 0's closed circle, and we need test value. So I'm going to test negative 7. Let's just do negative 5, and then 1, okay? So let's test x equals negative 7. So negative 7 squared plus 6 times negative 7 less than or equal to 0. Okay, so let's put that in Desmos. So parentheses, negative 7 squared plus 6 times negative 7 is 7. Okay, that is false, so we don't shade there. So now let's try negative 5. Okay, so negative 5 squared plus 6 times negative 5 less than or equal to 0. Okay, so all I have to do is change these to 5. Now I get negative 5 less than or equal to 0. That checks, so we can shade in the middle, and then we check x equals 1. So all I have to do is change these to a positive 1. We get 7, which is false, so we don't shade there. Okay? So this would be bracket negative 6 to 0 bracket, or you would say that negative is 6 is less than or equal to x less than or equal to 0. All right, go and finish that up. All right, let's take a look at the last one. All right, so here we distribute there, so that's a squared greater than or equal to 4 times 2a is 8a minus 3. I need to subtract 8a, add 3 to both sides. So you get a squared minus 8a plus 3. And actually, we're changing this to equal. Cancels, equals 0. Now, that doesn't look like factoring is very easy for that, so we're going to jump to the quadratic formula. So that's a, that's b, that's c. So x equals negative negative 8 plus or minus the square root of negative 8 squared minus 4 times 1 times 3 divided by 2 times 1. And since we just want the values, we're just going to jump right into plugging that all in the calculator all at once. So I'm going to press the divide key first. Negative 8. Let's do plus first. Plus, get this out of the way for a moment. There should be a square root right there. Yep. Oh, wait a second. Stay up in the denominator. Square root of parentheses negative 8 squared minus 4 times 1 times 3 divided by 2 times 1 is 7.6 is one of the values. Okay, and then all I have to do is change the plus to a minus and then 0.4. Okay, so we're going to put those on the number line. So, and it's a closed circle. So closed circle at 0.4 and 7.6 closed circle. Now we just need to test values. We can test 0. A number between here and here, an easy number is 1. And then we just need to test the value here. Let's do 8. Okay. So let's test 0 first. That's easy. 0 squared greater than or equal to 4 times 2 times 0 minus 3. So that's 0 greater than or equal to, let's just put the right side in.
Josiah Kelly, your ride is in the back by the CTE. Josiah Kelly, your ride is in the back.
All right, 0 is not greater than or equal to negative 3, so we don't shade on the left. Now let's try 1. So 1 squared greater than or equal to 4 times 2 times 1 minus 3. Well, that's 1 greater than or equal to 5. Okay, so we don't shade here. And then let's try 8. So then we just need to change this 1 to an 8. So 61. So, oh, and I almost forgot. We have to do the 8 squared part. 64. So 8 squared greater than or equal to 4 times 2 times 8 minus 3. So 64 is greater than or equal to 61. So this is a check. Now, I just caught my mistake. 0 is technically greater than or equal to negative 3. So this is technically a check. Okay. So we can shade to the left and we can shade to the right. So this would be from negative infinity to 0.4 bracket or bracket 7.6 to infinity. And then another way to look at it is x is less than or equal to 0.4 or x is greater than or equal to 7.6. Go ahead and finish that up. All right, let's take a look at the next page. All right, student works 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, 3A, and 3B. So start working on your assignment and have a wonderful Wildcat day.